The Sudan. Welcome to Democracy. DemocracyNow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Iranian diplomats say technical talks with the Trump administration aimed at ending the U.S. war in Iran have concluded in Switzerland with agreements on sanctions relief and the release of frozen Iranian assets. The U.S. Treasury Department announced it would waive sanctions for 60 days, allowing Iran to produce and sell crude oil and petrochemical products. President Trump said Monday Iran would use the funds exclusively to buy food from U.S. farmers, including corn and soybeans. The governor of Iran's central bank quickly countered Trump's claims, saying Iran was under no obligation to purchase from the U.S. Separately, Iran's foreign ministry refuted Vice President J.D. Vance's claims that Iran had agreed to allow United Nations inspectors at its nuclear sites, saying there were no plans for IAEA inspections, unquote. Meanwhile, Iran's parliament speaker and chief negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said Monday that Iran would permanently control the passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz.
I may have been among the first to say this right at the beginning of the war, before there was even a ceasefire. I posted on X and I made it clear. Everyone should know that the administration of the Strait will never return to the way that it was before the war.
The Pentagon seeking an additional $80 billion to cover the costs of the U.S. and Israeli war in Iran. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, which reports Pentagon leaders have said they could start running out of money for operations this summer unless Congress passes a new wartime spending bill. This comes after the Trump administration proposed a record-shattering $1.5 trillion defense budget. Israeli soldiers occupying southern Lebanon have opened fire on the town of Nabatiya al-Faqqa, killing 2 people and wounding another. It's the latest of Israel's many ceasefire violations and comes after Iran previously warned it would respond to further attacks by Israeli troops on Lebanon. On Monday, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his forces would remain in southern Lebanon for as long as necessary, while Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir threatened Beirut could soon face the same fate as Beit Hanun in Gaza, where Israeli attacks destroyed about 90% of buildings.
The equation must be simple and very clear. The state of Israel must be secure. If Israel is not secure, Beirut will look like Beit Hanun.
A United Nations Commission of Inquiry has found Israeli security forces are committing the crime of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes in the Gaza Strip by deliberately targeting Palestinian children with deadly violence. The report by the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory found Israeli attacks since October 2023 have resulted in unprecedented death, injury, and trauma, with more than 20,000 children killed, another 44,000 wounded. The violence continued even after Israel agreed to a ceasefire last October. The report also found Israeli forces are carrying out war crimes in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, with a sharp rise in violence perpetrated by Israeli settlers against Palestinian children. And the report found Israeli security forces have used sexual violence against children who've been arrested and subjected to torture and other severe forms of mistreatment.
Jesus Christ.
Israeli prisons.
That's insane.
Members of the United Auto Workers have voted to prohibit investments in Israeli bonds, becoming the first major U.S. labor union to divest from the State of Israel. UAW member Olga Karunos, who organized the vote, said, quote, "This is going to send a message to not just the billionaire class, but to politicians and any single person who's not afraid to stand up to genocide, to Netanyahu, to the United States government, and will put the UAW again on the map for standing up for international solidarity," unquote. The U.S. military struck another boat in the Caribbean, killing 2 people. 6 people survived, but it remains unclear if they were rescued. U.S. Southern Command claimed without offering evidence that the strike targeted alleged drug traffickers. Since September, the U.S. military has carried out deadly strikes on more than 60 boats. Former Human Rights Watch Executive Director Ken Roth commented on social media, quote, "The summary execution of 2 more in an alleged drug boat brings the number of murders ordered by Trump to more than 210. There will come a day when he faces prosecution for these crimes," Ken Roth said.
No, well.
The United Nations has warned civilians in Sudan's North Kordofan region face the imminent risk of mass atrocities after paramilitaries with Sudan's Rapid Support Forces encircled the city of El Obeid. The RSF fighters, who've been locked in a civil war against Sudan's military ruler since 2023, have escalated drone attacks around the city, blowing up a power substation and a fuel station. Meanwhile, the Sudan Doctors Network reports drone attacks forced several medical centers to close and knocked out water pumping and filtration stations. This is UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk.
The imminent offensive against Al Obeid in Sudan risks commission of serious international crimes and deepens the catastrophic impact on an already beleaguered civilian population. We have seen this playbook before, and we cannot allow the repeat of the preventable atrocities we documented in Al-Fashar and Samsam IDP camp in North Darfur last year.
In health news, the number of confirmed cases of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of the Congo has topped 1,000. Officials say the Ebola outbreak has killed at least 254 people, but that it's believed to be an undercount. Here in New York City, Mayor Zohran Mamdani signed an executive order Monday protecting workers from extreme heat. The order requires every city agency to create heat illness prevention plans and to provide multilingual heat safety guidance for outdoor workers. City officials say the order will protect 1.4 million people, or about a third of New Yorkers, who spend significant time working outdoors. Mayor Mamdani said heat kills more than 500 people in New York City each year. This is New York Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice, Julie
Ain't gonna get any better.
Extreme heat kills more Americans every year than hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes combined. And we know, because of climate change, it is only getting worse. The number of days above 90 degrees is projected to increase significantly in the years ahead. And despite all of this, extreme heat is still not recognized under federal law as a workplace hazard.
The Trump administration's proposed a rollback of regulations on companies seeking to extract oil, gas, and coal from U.S. public lands. Rules proposed by the Interior Department Monday would slash oil and gas fees paid by energy companies, weaken environmental reporting obligations, and eliminate a requirement that companies detail plans to limit methane emissions when applying for drilling permits. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration's efforts to create a national citizenship database to verify voter eligibility. The League of Women Voters and other groups had sued, warning the database could lead to mass purges of qualified voters. U.S. District Judge Sparkle Suknanan wrote, quote, "All in all, the federal government's knowingly trampled on the privacy rights of American citizens in a manner that threatens the sacred right to vote. This court cannot stand idly by while that happens," she said. In other legal news, a federal judge has blocked the Trump administration's subpoenas of several Democratic officials in Minnesota, including Governor Tim Walz. District Judge Patrick Schultz ruled the subpoenas were unconstitutional, calling them an effort to harass and retaliate. The Justice Department issued the subpoenas in January after Walz and other officials condemned the Trump administration's deadly immigration crackdown in Minnesota. The U.S. Supreme Court's once again postponed consideration of President Trump's appeal in the E. Jean Carroll case after Trump was found liable for damages caused by his sexual abuse and defamation of the writer, who says Trump sexually assaulted her in a department store dressing room in the 1990s. The Supreme Court has rescheduled the case 15 times since February, a delay that has benefited Trump, in part because it's deferred a $5 million verdict a jury in New York awarded to Carroll more than 3 years ago. And Alan Greenspan has died at the age of 100. He served as the chair of the Federal Reserve from 1987 to 2006. He was a disciple of libertarian philosopher Ayn Rand, a leading
Dude, it's always the
advocate for
demons that
deregulating
fucking
banks and a proponent
live
of
forever,
so-called
dude. Why is that the
trickle-down
case?
economics. Greenspan was widely blamed for fueling economic inequality in the United States. Former Labor Secretary Robert Reich wrote on Monday, quote, "If any single person was responsible for the financial crisis of 2008, it was Greenspan. That crisis, the worst collapse since 1929, which led to the worst recession in decades, in which millions of Americans lost their jobs, savings, and even their homes, resulted from the deregulation of Wall Street that Greenspan advocated," Reich said. Greenspan later admitted there was a fundamental flaw in his free market ideology.
Yeah, no
Greenspan
shit.
also pushed for the U.S. invasion of
too
Iraq
late.
in 2003. He later wrote in his memoir, quote, "I am saddened that it is politically inconvenient to acknowledge what everyone knows. The Iraq War is largely about oil," he said. Visit democracynow.org to see a debate we hosted in 2007 between Alan Greenspan and Naomi Klein. That's democracynow.org.
Damn, I bet that's a banger
And
debate.
those are some
Well. Oh, I want to see this.
I said, how many are you looking for? 10, 15? No, 15,000, sir. I said, not in trouble. For more than 100 years, this legendary company has been making trucks right here in eastern Pennsylvania, building the heavy-duty machinery that keeps our economy rolling, our factories moving, and our industries rolling all across the nation.
Damn, you can barely hear it, but yeah. Oh, let's see this primary.
Multiple states are holding primary elections today, with fewer than 5 months to go until the midterms. Voters are casting ballots in both Maryland and Utah, but there are also key elections happening in South Carolina and right here in New York State. CBS News political director Finn Gomez joined us from our DC bureau to break down.
Dude, what a smile.
Finn, good
He
morning.
is so happy
You're
to be
closely
on here.
following several House elections happening in New York today. Why are they key, and what role is the newly elected Mayor Zohran Mamdani playing?
Yeah, good morning, Errol. Yeah, it's a big one in New York today. Really, the first test of whether the Mamdani political brand can travel beyond City Hall. The first major test of Zohran Mamdani's political influence since becoming mayor last year. He's endorsed candidates in 3 closely watched House Democratic primaries, including challenges, Errol, against Democratic incumbents in Manhattan and the Bronx. The mayor put his name on the line in these 3 Democratic House primaries. He's backing Brad Lander against Congressman Dan Goldman in the 10th, Lander, of course, who is the city's comptroller, Darialisa Avila Chevalier, who's the DSA candidate. He's backing her against Adriano Esposito.
For the mayor, some members of the Jewish community, including Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer, were alarmed by the language you used at the rally last week, calling AIPAC monsters who move dark money. These are phrases that
That's my man right there.
Anti-Semitic tropes and conspiracy theories. What do you say to those who are concerned that the language you used is dangerous?
Now, I want to be very clear. We're talking about a status quo where children are being killed on a daily basis. more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli military since the so-called ceasefire. Even an Al Jazeera journalist, Ahmed Wishah, was killed this past Saturday by an Israeli strike. And when I am speaking about AIPAC, I'm speaking about an organization that has been supportive of the status quo, that has fought any attempt to actually deliver safety to people, not just in Palestine, but frankly, through much of the region. And it is a status quo for immorality. It is one that I will not accept. And when it comes to the way in which they defend the status quo, oftentimes they defend it through direct contributions, as we are seeing right now in New York 13. Oftentimes they also support the status quo through dark money, by filtering money that would have previously been directly from AIPAC, now through other shell organizations whose identities of their contributors are only made clear after an election. And I think that it is important that when we ask ourselves how such death and destruction is happening overseas, we also name those who allow it to take place.
All right, we're going to go.
The word choice, though, monsters. Do you have any regret? Would you clarify or apologize for that?
So, I was quoting Gramsci, who said that the old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. I used the term to describe all those who are preventing the birth of a new world. Not solely AIPAC, but frankly, super PACs at large who are spending millions of dollars in deceptive and misleading ads that are blanketing airwaves, not just in the case of Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier, but also we see that kind of PAC spending when it comes to oppose Brad Lander, who's running for Congress, as well as Claire Valdez, as well as a number of other races. And I also use the term to describe a politics that for far too long has asked working people to lower their expectations. It has asked working people to be satisfied with small victories as their wages grow even smaller. And my use of the term is a broad use that speaks to the untenable nature of a status quo that is quite literally starving people in this city.
Alright, let's see what else is cooking up. Oh, shit. This might be interesting. Senate Senate votes to limit Trump's Iran war powers in rare rebuke. Senate adopted a resolution Tuesday directing the president to remove military forces from the conflict with Iran. A significant rebuke in a rebuke to Donald. Oh my God, I can't talk. A significant rebuke to Donald Trump and a strong message that the war lacks critical support in Congress. Democrats have repeatedly forced votes to limit Trump's war and powers in both the House and the Senate, a campaign that has gradually picked up more GOP support in recent weeks, drawing the president's ire. Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski and Bill Cassidy joined Democrats. Rand Paul, really? I do not think Rand Paul was built like that. Maybe I don't remember who Rand Paul is very well. Oh, it's this guy. For some reason, I thought it was a different guy. Yeah. He's the one who kind of walks the aisles sometimes. What state is he from? He's probably from some kind of bullshit swing state. Oh, there's my alarm. It's 2:40. Kentucky. Definitely not a swing state. Okay. Bill Cassidy joined Democrats in voting for the resolution, while Democrat Senator John Fetterman voted against it. Yeah, well, fucking John Fetterman is, like, genuinely dying. His brain got cut in half when he had his stroke. Absence of GOP Mitch McConnell and Dave McCormick, who previously voted against advancing war powers, contributed to the measure's adoption. Okay, I honestly wonder if Mitch McConnell is just not there entirely based on the fact that he's way too fucking old to move around. Like, hold on. How old is Mitch McConnell? 84. I thought he was in his 90s. He is an ancient one. I mean, look at those jowls, dude. Look at that goiter he's got going. That's insane. I'm surprised he still has hair, honestly. And he's got such a fucking weird look to him, man. Such a weird look. Looks like Buster Scruggs. Looks like Buster Scruggs if he got really old. Really old. Oh, crazy. I don't think that's going to do anything. It's probably performative. I mean, I doubt that there's much actually, Ooh. Prediction market traders expect Mamdani-backed candidates to win in the New York City primaries. Let's check out Claire Valdez. See what she's got to say. Okay, shit.
Okay, nightclub crew, let's go.
What the hell?
Claire's running for Congress.
So runs Mar-a-Lago.
So I wanted to come out tonight because my friend Claire Valdez is running for Congress.
Dude, this is insane. What kind of energy do you have to have for this shit?
Okay, what do you stand for? Abolishing ICE, fighting to end the genocide in Gaza, building the labor movement in the United States, taxing the rich.
Dude, you can tell she's shit-faced the way she's like kind of leaning in.
I was at your rally earlier. This is my tribe. How long are you dancing tonight? We'll see. As long as the night takes. Okay, well, I need you to get out and I need you to tell your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, to text your exes. I know they live here. That is solidarity. That's what that looks like. Are you registered? I am. Of course I'm registered. Of course you are.
I was born raised here in Oklahoma, and we're...
That's crazy. That's the new meta right there. That's wild.
Mr. President, I rise today to address a very serious topic, one that I've often addressed on the floor of the Senate during my 13-plus years here, but that I've particularly been focused on since President Trump decided to launch a war against Iran on February 28th of this year. And the issue is whether we should ever be at war without a vote of Congress. The consequences of the war that President Trump started are pretty well known to the American public. We have now spent in excess of $50 billion of U.S. taxpayer money on the war, with the need to spend more to replenish munitions, stockpiles, and repair infrastructure that has been damaged by Iran, U.S. infrastructure in the nations near that country. More important than the dollars we've lost are the lives that have been lost. 13 U.S. troops, including a Virginian Warrant Officer, Robert Marzon, have lost their lives in this war. And thousands of Iranian civilians have been killed. The damage has not just been to the U.S. Treasury and taxpayers and to our troops and Iranian civilians. It's also been to everyday American families. Because of the instability in the war, the Straits of Hormuz were closed, as all predicted it might be if President Trump launched this war, and that has led to escalating fuel prices. The estimates are that Americans have paid already $50 billion more for fuel since February 28th than they would have if President Trump had not started this war. I could go on about the consequences now being 110 days or so into this war, but I don't think I need to because I think the American public understands them very well.
All right, here we go. CBS towing a tight line right now. Leader of group convicted in Antifa-inspired attack on a Texas ICE facility handed a 100-year prison sentence. Saying Antifa-inspired attack is like, I mean, they're not wrong, but like, you know, they're obviously trying to frame it as if Antifa is a terrorist organization in line with NSPM 7. So, whatever are the new NSPM 7 guidelines. 8 people who were found guilty of terrorism-related charges earlier this year for the 2025 attack on an ICE detention facility in Alvarado, Texas, learned their punishments on Tuesday. One member of the group, identified as the group's leader, was sentenced to a century in prison. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Texas said on Monday that sentencing for the defendants would happen on Tuesday morning. The verdicts handed down in March came as the defendants stood accused in the July 4th, 2025 plot targeting the Prairieland ICE Detention Center following weeks of testimony from investigators, law enforcement, and cooperating witnesses. Benjamin Song was hit with the longest prison sentence, 100 years behind bars. Marcela Rueda? Yeah. Marcella was sentenced to 70 years in prison. Autumn Hill was sentenced to 50 years, along with Zachary Evitz, Savannah Batten, Megan Morris, and Elizabeth Soto. Some banger names in here, actually. Like, okay, wait. Autumn Hill is a crazy one. Benjamin Song, last name Song is wild. And then, what was the other one? Oh, first name Savannah. Like, a lot of geographical names here. Hill, Savannah. Yeah. So the sentences were 30 years, 50 years, 70 years, and 100 years. Crazy. Prosecutors said that the group launched a premeditated terror attack on the detention facility inspired by Antifa ideology. Lordy. Not that Antifa ideology. One officer was struck in the neck with a bullet and survived. In September 2025, the Trump administration designated Antifa as a domestic terror group. However, the designation did not create new criminal charges. Instead, it directed federal agencies to focus more resources on investigating Antifa-related activity. My favorite thing, Antifa-related activity, every American's pastime. Critics of the move argued that Antifa, short for anti-fascist, is an ideology, not an actual group with an organized leadership structure and membership. Subscribing to a specific ideology, they say, is not a crime. This is true. There were 9 defendants who went to trial and faced a total of 65 charges that included attempted murder, aiding terrorists, and weapons charges. Those who supported the defendants called the charges outrageous, saying the defendants were there protesting ICE and that the government had gone overboard to send a message. 9 defendants: Autumn Hill, Zachary Evitz, Benjamin Song, Savannah Batten, Megan Morris, formerly Bradford Morris. Wow, you're really going to dead name her like that? Crazy. Marcela Rueda, Elizabeth Soto, Inez Soto, Daniel Rolando Sanchez Estrada. Wow, they all look goated, dude. They all look sick as hell. Nice. Alright, well, except for this guy. This guy looks pretty angry. Okay, this is interesting because it actually also comes 15 people tried for Antifa. Comes on the same day that I think it's in Minnesota, yeah. Department of Justice. 15 members of Direct Action Minnesota, a Minneapolis-based direct action group with Antifa ties indicted. They have Antifa ties, people. Charges include conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer, interstate stalking, interstate threats, solicitation to commit a crime of violence, and assaults on federal officers. Hold on. Got a text here. Someone sent me an Instagram reel through text. Lovely. Okay. Justice Department today announced that 15 members and associates of Direct Action Minnesota, damn, that's actually kind of fire, have been charged with various federal crimes, including conspiracy to impede a federal officer. Let's get definitions on these, actually. Conspiracy to impede a federal officer. 2 or more people agree to use force, threats, or intimidation to prevent a federal official from performing their duties. Okay. Multiple counts of interstate stalking. I would just imagine this is stalking over state borders, right? Crosses state lines, enters or leaves tribal lands, or uses interstate communication networks such as phones or the internet with the intent to harass, intimidate, or... Wait. Interstate communication networks such as phones or the internet? Oh my god, what a bullshit accusation. Interstate threats, probably the same shit. Solicitation to commit a crime of violence. Multiple counts of assault on a federal officer and destruction of government property. Over the last 24 hours, federal agents with the Homeland Security Investigations conducted a coordinated law enforcement operation culminating in the arrest of 12 DAM members. 2 DAM members are at large. Oh my god, are at large, and one was previously in federal custody on separate charges. As alleged, these defendants, which include members of Antifa groups, engaged in an unrelenting campaign of harassment and violence targeting federal and local law enforcement. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said... Oh, that was what Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said. Their actions created a dangerous environment that threatened not only their intended targets, but the community as a whole. These arrests demonstrate the department's commitment to law and order and stopping organized political violence in Minneapolis and beyond. Today's announcement is the result of a thorough investigation into a deeply troubling trend, blah, blah, blah. I'm not very troubled by it. We have uncovered evidence of organized groups deliberately planning to execute criminal acts, including assaults, threats, destruction of government property, and attempts to impede federal officers. We fully respect and defend the First Amendment right to peaceful protest. However, when protest crosses the line into violence or criminal activity, it becomes unlawful and will not be tolerated. Our message is clear. You may disagree with the laws and you have the right to protest them, but you must abide by them or face the consequences. The law is not optional, and any attempt to undermine it through violence or intimidation will be met with swift and decisive action. So, now that's fire. That's so sick. I am Antifa. That's sick. Flipped trailer used by DAM during a blockade. Debris and Czech hedgehog used by DAM during a blockade. Czech hedgehog, I like that. Soft blockade by DAM on March 1st. Soft blockade by DAM on March 1st. Trying to ram her Honda Civic. Well, can we get the video? I kind of doubt it. It's hilarious. Let's see if we can find this video. Yeah, I don't think that video's out there. Someone should do a FOIA on that, a Freedom of Information. Black Cat Workers Collective Facebook page. So I'm going to lose my fucking mind if I see that 3.5% of the population is committed to peaceful revolution. They win bullshit. It's given far too... what? Many well-meaning people a fake-ass idea of what it takes to win. It is folks attacking militant elements of the resistance and aiding the state against them because they think violence is not a property destruction. Okay, yeah. Well, seems like some bullshit. You know, just classic FBI kind of... You gotta keep the pores down. You can't have them organizing. Oh, crazy. Yeah. Let's check the gray zone. Let's see what they got. Yeah, it's all just like international stuff, which is great, but it gets boring at a certain point, you know?
Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Melanie Zanona in Washington, and if it's Tuesday, voters are voting in primaries in 4 states, all as President Trump hits the campaign trail in battleground Pennsylvania, looking to turn the page on the Iran war and focus on what matters most to voters. That's the economy, an issue where he's seen his approval numbers hit new lows in recent weeks. You're looking at live pictures here of the president campaigning in Pennsylvania's 7th district, which
Live pictures.
Democrats see as one of their best opportunities to oust a sitting Republican congressman in November, in large part by focusing on the issue of affordability.
I'm gonna get some water.
Touting the recent stock market gains, insisting prices are coming down, and also slamming Democrats for voting against his tax cuts, all as he claimed the economy would only improve from here.
Our economy is ready to soar to levels the world has not seen before. I believe that, David. I think it's going to levels that nobody's ever seen before. All these factories are being built, and they're going to be occupied, and they're hiring people now, and it's going to be something very beautiful. I don't know who's going to follow me, but remember that I was the one that did it, okay? I got here, my first day, the fake news is screaming at me, what about affordability? I'm only here one day. Remember, eggs were up about 5 times higher than they ever were. And we have prices are coming down right now at levels that you've never seen. And now with oil crashing, you're going to see something really amazing.
The president also hit many of his other favorite talking points, including falsely claiming the 2020 election and the recent California primary were rigged, leading to the ever-present question of how focused the president will actually be on the economy ahead of November's election. It all comes as voters are heading to the polls today in Maryland, South Carolina, Utah, and New York, where a handful of Democratic primaries could be a bellwether for the direction of the party, and also test the strength of Mayor Mamdani's influence within the Democratic Party. Mamdani is putting his political capital on the line in 3 New York City primaries.
Get out and vote. This is the team. This is our year.
The mayor is backing progressive challengers to 2 Democratic incumbents, throwing his support behind City Comptroller Brad Lander against Congressman Dan Golden, and endorsing Democratic Socialist Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier over the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. Mamdani also supporting another Democratic Socialist, State Assembly member Claire Valdez, not the candidate being backed by retiring Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. Joining me now is our NBC News team. Senior national politics reporter John Allen is at the White House. Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin on the ground in New York City. Senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor has the view from Maryland. And of course, if it's Tuesday, Chief Data Analyst Steve Kornacki is breaking things down at the big board. Thank you all so much for joining us. I do want to start, though, over at the White House. John, what were your takeaways from the president's remarks today? And Republicans on the campaign trail, are they going to be satisfied with that message?
Yeah, by and large, Mel, this is what Republicans want to hear. He is on message. He is promising a better economy, a brighter future, unicorns perhaps. But the president being on message about things getting better from where they are is exactly what Republican candidates are going to want to hear. Of course, the president is given to some diversions from that basic economic message, and they would like to hear less of that and more about what he sees as a positive, talking about oil prices coming down. They were not pleased, by and large, with the Iran war and the prices of oil going up and of other goods. But if those start to come down, I think they feel like they're going to be in a better place to try to defend their majority in the midterms.
And John, what about the voters? Because the president, obviously, he really touted the current and future health of the economy. But is that enough, especially if people aren't actually feeling like things are improving for their everyday lives?
Yeah, this is a problem we've seen not only in this presidency, but in the last one, where you had Joe Biden tell people that the economy was in great shape and they didn't feel it. And I think that it hurt Joe Biden's credibility. And if people continue to not feel the economy soaring the way that Donald Trump says it's going to soar, they are also going to feel the difference between those two things, and it'll hurt his credibility. Folks weren't born yesterday. Most voters, certainly all voters, were not born yesterday. And remember that the president took the country into the Iran war.
Why am I getting that kind of video suggested to me? Gut expert tells me what foods to eat. Hmm. Hmm. Plans for a multilateral body to monitor the truce is under review. The fuck does that mean? J.D. Vance and Secretary Marco Rubio told Lebanon's Vice President Joseph Aoun during Tuesday phone call that the president's administration was closely following efforts to create a joint cell involving the U.S., Lebanon, and Iran that was agreed to on Sunday during direct U.S.-Iran talks in Switzerland. The new body will be created to stabilize the ceasefire in Lebanon. That's insane. The U.S., Lebanon, and Iran, but you don't include Israel. Dude, they do not trust Israel for shit. They cannot trust Israel for anything. It's hilarious. Oh my god. Like, to think that you're putting a ceasefire monitoring organization and you include Lebanon but not Israel. I mean, like, obviously you wouldn't, because they're insane and they're just going to break the ceasefire either way. But it's funny that, like, on principle, right? On principle. Anyways, it really is what, like, Mark Carney said, like, the global rules-based order is just completely, like, collapsing. I love that speech he gave, even though he's just like a spineless liberal. Still really good speech. And not necessarily like a good speech, but it was, like, very insightful and, like, interesting, and I think it's probably, like, a very important stepstone for when the global opinion on the US just completely shifted. Like, I mean, we were always seen as being, like, an imperialist threat empire, but, like, at least at that point, when Canada, your literal next door neighbor, is, like, making sure that everybody knows it and is, like, blatantly saying that we have pretended as though international law applies to countries, but we violate it all the time. You're just, like, basically at that point where, you're giving China the opportunity to step into the power vacuum because the trust is just eliminated in the US. Like, we don't even have the military capabilities to, like, actually, like, fight a functioning war. When was the last time we won a war? It was World War II, and we didn't even really win it, Like, there's no definitive winners to that war. It was just everybody sucked except for us. Or everyone got fucked except for us. Russia got fucked, fucking the UK got fucked. Just everybody got fucked, except for us. And that's why we were the de facto winners, in quotations. Because we didn't get fucked. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, China is for sure just, like, China is going to be the 200-year empire for, 200 years. They're going to, I don't even know about empire. I'm sure they'll get imperialist at some point, but right now they're just chilling. I mean, they're going to take Taiwan, but I'm okay with that. Not the end of the world. I think that Taiwan, like, as a culture, I think it's kind of tricky because, like, on one hand, I think that Taiwan is, like, I think Taiwan is, like, it has the right to self-determination. It's been so long that they feel culturally distinct from mainland China, but at the same time, and maybe they always were, I'm not an expert on this shit, but at the same time, it's like, China does have, like, a historical precedent over that land. And, for the most part, I'm against it for like that liberatory factor that like, you know, no one should be subjugated to the government if, you know, or to a government that they don't want to be a part of. Especially no population, right? Like it's one thing if you're a fucking libertarian asshole and you're like, what is it? I'm a sovereign citizen. That's what they say, right? Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, that's weird shit, but yeah. All right, let's find something else on here. World Cup, ransom note claimed, blah, blah, blah. Today's news. Pool problems, Europe's deadly heat. Ooh, Spokane, Washington bans data center construction for the next year. Let's read this. Ain't that a beautiful sight? Don't you just want to build that like right over the prettiest monument you've ever seen? Or not monument, landscape you've ever seen? No data centers will be built in Spokane for the next year under City Council's new moratorium, sorry. SPS in Spokane announced child care partnership. A new analysis shows that more than a third of... Okay, this is just... Wait, really? Struggle to afford the essentials. 1/3 of Washington families struggle to afford the essentials. Whoa, we're skipping to that. Holy shit. Cruising aircraft. Hold on, I'll just Google that. Let's see what we've got. 1 in 3 households across the state. Okay, now what I was looking for. Okay, this is not all that interesting to read. A little late for this, buddy. All right, Antonio Guterres. Let's see what you got. Major keynote speech in London. The UN chief called on AI firms to come clean on the full environmental impact of data centers in terms of their carbon, water, and land footprints. The General Secretary also highlighted how the world's dependence on oil is both driving the climate crisis and an energy sovereignty crunch. An energy sovereignty crunch. The latter linked to massive shipping disruption in the Strait of Hormuz and the war involving Iran, Israel, and the United States. These crises may seem separate. Holy shit! But they share the same destructive origin: fossil fuels. Blah blah blah. Okay. The UN plan for energy independence: cut emissions fast. Doi. Emissions must peak now and reach net zero by 2050, including through a global push to curb methane pollution. Accelerate clean energy. Renewables pickup needs to continue. Subsidies must end for fossil fuel projects and fossil fuel profits taxed to support vulnerable communities and energy transition. Require major AI companies to disclose the environmental impact of their data centers and power them without renewable energy by 2030. Ensure a just transition. Ensure that the shift to clean energy creates jobs, supports communities, and delivers Development benefits for developing countries, boost climate resilience, increased investment in adaptation, early warning systems, and other measures to protect people in most vulnerable. Okay, this all seems pretty basic and like you're beating your head against a wall or otherwise flagellating a deceased equine. So I'm gonna skip that one. Mm-hmm. The evidence shows that Palestinian children have been deliberately targeted and killed by the Israeli security forces. The report refers to the period following Hamas's invasion of Israel in late 2023, which resulted in 1,200 deaths and 250 taken hostage, and the subsequent war Israel waged against Gaza that has to date killed more than 70,000 Palestinians in the besieged and occupied territory. Even after the October 2025 ceasefire, children continue to be killed and seriously injured, with continued disregard by Israel for the ceasefire and for the protection owed to Palestinian children under international law. Israel has killed 20,000 children and injured 44,000 more since October 7th, 2023. Severe physical and mental injuries, mass trauma, orphanhood, separation, disability, repeated displacement, starvation, the collapse of education and healthcare have erased childhood and will continue to affect the children in Gaza throughout their lives. Palestinian children have been arrested and subjugated to war, or to torture and other severe forms of mistreatment in Israeli prisons and detention facilities with no information on their whereabouts. Israeli security forces have used sexual violence against children as a part of the collective shaming and oppression entrenched within a prolonged ethnic, gendered, and intergenerational pattern of occupation hostilities. Oh, that's depressing. Oh, that's depressing.
Are already set.
Holy advertisements all over the place. Jesus Christ, USA Today is horrible. Shameless.
Worldwide depression, as you noted, Mr. President. Are you willing to risk economic catastrophe and strike Iran
Well,
again?
not the way I'm doing it. It's not going to cause depression.
Yes, but if they don't abide by
30% of Americans approving of his job performance. Holy shit. That's insane. 30%. %66% disapprove of Trump. Highest disapproval and lowest approval ever recorded by the pollster during either of his presidencies. %82% say they expect conditions to worsen over the next year, according to the poll. It's not a good sign. 39%, the lowest of his second administration. So he's a whole 9% less popular. That's insane. 60% of Americans say they disapprove of Trump's economic performance. 70% disapprove. Damn, Jesus. It's insane. The numbers were great. You know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over, I can say it now, something you didn't know. What? Hold on. Hold on, I gotta find this clip of him. That's insane.
Are you concerned, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning? Could that be a
No, I love it. The numbers look great. You know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because Because as soon as this war is over, you know, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now. And I said, you know, the bad part is the stock market will go down by a lot based on predictions of experts, like 25%.
Okay, this is so funny. Okay, this is the JD Vance style posturing that Tucker Carlson engineered way before JD Vance started doing it. Tucker, finger to the wind, saw the way the winds were blowing, immediately knew, abandoned ship. You know, he got dropped from the network, doesn't have to toe the Israel line anymore. He's like, unpopular, I'm done. You know, immediately starts having on politically ambiguous Republicans who are, you know, in theory against Israel, and or not against Israel, but critical of it, or some otherwise critical of imperialism, and you know, more of the America First nationalist isolationist policies. So really interesting. I love paying attention to this shit. Let's check it out.
Israel sealed the fate of Tucker Carlson as well. For months, Republicans have been painting him as anti-Semitic.
Republicans have been painting him as anti-Semitic. It's hilarious because I guarantee you by 2028, Republicans are going to be critical of Israel. You're going to have JD Vance up there. He's going to be like, you know, I was the one during the Iran talks who said that we need to stop supporting Israel so, you know, committedly and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be like kind of this phony, airy, like, oh, it's all talk kind of shit. It's going to be the new meta. And, you know, it's going to be that versus Gavin Newsom. So obviously we're going to get a JD Vance 2028. But the Trump dynasty is really in motion right now. I think that, like, Tucker Carlson is way too smart for this sort of shit. Like, hold on, let's see if I can find the clip. Tucker Carlson, Ivory Tower. Hold on, let's check this. Tucker Carlson, Ivory Tower. There's this one quote of Tucker Carlson where he says, it's from early career. Tucker Carlson looking down at the peasants. I feel like it was like a Vox video. Okay, here we go. Okay, this video, I know like Vox is like, you know, kind of lib coded, but still just bear with me.
Tucker Carlson likes to brand himself as a real man of the people. Politicians, big business, the media, they are all on the same side.
There's just one quote.
Now Democrats have become the party of the elite professional class. And standing up is a member of the American elite.
How do you pay your bills?
Well, I'm like extraordinarily loaded just from like money I, you know, inherited.
You're a trust fund baby, are you not?
No, completely. I've never needed to work. I mean, it's all just the whole cable news thing. It was like a phase I was going through.
So what is going on here? Why would a guy who brags
Hold on.
about being an out-of-the-closet elitist host a show where he rails against...
Oh, here it is.
Tucker Carlson would say...
One thing you learn when you grow up in a castle and look out across the moat every day at the hungry peasants out in the village is you don't want to stoke envy among the proletariat.
Thanks, Tucker.
You don't want to stoke envy among the proletariat. What a fucking Marxist king Tucker Carlson is. Yeah, so he's incredibly smart. He's always known where to play the angle and all of that. So he just puts his finger to the wind, feels the way the wind is going. He's like, well, I'm not tied up with the strings of television anymore and all of the money that, you know, they take and all of the things that are entailed by it. So I might as well just go and shift gears and go against Israel and, join the sort of Nick Fuentes. He's like Nick Fuentes light opinions, where it's like, civilized Nick Fuentes who doesn't praise Hitler and shit like that. Like Nick Fuentes for the sane and normal. And so, anyways, very interesting. That he's like he stepped up to Ted Cruz here and was like, talking all his shit and sort of pressing him on Israel. And it obviously made Ted Cruz uncomfortable, and he was pressing him on his AIPAC money and pressing him on his stance with like undying support for Israel at the cost of American jobs, or not jobs, American well-being and all that. So it's just like he's way too smart. JD Vance is already posturing against it. He already knows what's happening. He knows what he's doing. Let's check it out. Let's see how this goes.
I have seen more anti-Semitism in the last 18 months on the right. It is being spread by loud voices, the most consequential of whom is Tucker Carlson. I believe Tucker Carlson is the single most dangerous demagogue in this country.
Carlson says
Oh my
he's
God.
done with the Republican Party. He says it puts the interest of Israel above those of its own citizens.
I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to do. But at this point, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States?
Group chat is back. Tam,
Holy
two
hat.
ends of the spectrum
Holy
here.
hat-a-moly.
Meets up at the top.
You just get a hat flashbang, hat jump scare.
Is that Tucker has been at odds with the White House for many months. Almost every time there's a foreign intervention, but this one in particular seems to have pushed him over the edge in terms of how he speaks publicly.
I think that what is happening here with Tucker Carlson, with Ted Cruz, is various parts of what has.
There's a lot of.
Tucker is not the only one who's done supporting the Republican Party. There's a lot of us that are absolutely fed up and will not support a party that betrays its voters and country. That does not mean we are turning into Democrats either, but we are done with the America Last Republican Party. Yeah, okay, so Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, there was a couple defectors from their line. People who didn't just like glug on Trump. Because I think it's pretty clear, especially when Tucker Carlson is saying shit like this. Especially when he's saying shit like that, that he's looking out over these polling numbers and seeing Trump down at 30% approval and saying to himself, in a few years, once this train is over, I don't want to be on the side. I want to have a track record of opposition to Trump's bullshit. He couldn't do it in the first term because it was so obvious that there were still those like forever Trumpers that were like, yeah. And then that kind of population starts trickling down. And then, the Trump wins another landslide election. And then like, you get like, I just feel like the Trump base is not as committed to him anymore. And so seeing this war and seeing his support for Israel and seeing all the, the genocide and the unpopularity of it, it's just weighing down on it. He's obviously not very, not polling very well. I mean, as we're literally seeing right here. But I think that there's just this, like, we're going to outflank the Democrats, that's my outflanking right there. We're going to outflank them by creating a sort of hollow opposition to Israel. I don't think that this is a meaningful opposition to Israel, because opposition to Israel would actually mean, like taking like an actual stance against so many of the institutions that are deeply entwined with the military-industrial complex. And that is absolutely not something that Tucker Carlson or JD Vance or Marjorie Taylor Greene would ever do in their career. Maybe Marjorie would. Tucker, maybe, I because he's such a grifter and he's not tied down by like political weights. He's not like locked into the system like JD Vance is, but like, JD Vance running on an anti-Israel platform, right? Like, has to be a hollow promise. It can't be a real promise, because if it's a real promise, then he's obviously going to lose all of the support from the the deep state. It's just not going to happen. And I mean, let's pull up the this video really quick. Hold on. JD Vance threatens Israel. Just so that we get an idea of him pulling the Tucker, you know? Okay.
Accomplish 4 things for the American people. First, we wanted to build a mechanism for keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. It is open. We've seen
Wait, this might not be
gas
it.
prices and oil prices come down. Millions and millions of barrels of crude and natural gas flowing through the Strait of Hormuz that weren't flowing before. But we also wanted to make sure that we actually set up the coordination mechanism so that we could demine the Straits of Hormuz, so that when there are the conflicts that inevitably come up, we can make sure we work through them rather than that leading to escalation, and that is exactly what we did yesterday. Number 2, we also wanted to build a mechanism, a similar mechanism, for deconfliction for the regional ceasefire. At the technical level, with the...
I feel like I should probably just find a short, because this is gonna be hard. Okay, I think this is the clip I was thinking of. Yeah, because it was...
Thank you, sir. Jordan Conradson with the Gateway Pundit. I want to talk back to the Lebanon component of the deal. There's a report in Axios that Netanyahu's fuming over this. Israel doesn't feel bound to the MOU as it relates to Lebanon. If, as you mentioned, your frustration with Israel striking in Beirut, hitting apartment buildings, if that continues, could it torpedo the deal? And what would the U.S.'s response be to a broader war in Lebanon involving Israel and Hezbollah?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into hypotheticals that could torpedo the deal, because I think the president's expectation is that all of our friends, the Israelis, the Arabs in the region, we're going to work together and actually see this deal to completion. Now, I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number 1, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government,
Okay, this is the moment right here. Listen in.
Of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give,
there you go.
Cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down on this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands. And
yeah, so the goal being that you can posture against Israel, maintain them as an ally, and then move the needle into your court, but or rather move your court onto the needle, but you're not actually going to ever make any substantial moves against Israel unless you're absolutely boxed in. And interestingly, the Trump administration is completely boxed in right now. I mean, Trump said we have 4 weeks more left of oil. 4 more weeks, all right? And if Lebanon keeps getting attacked by Israel, or Israeli troops stay in Lebanon, then we're at a position where it's, I mean, the Trump administration is stuck with their 2 options, which are essentially forever war that they're losing and crashing the global economy and crashing the U.S. economy, or, and let's be clear, that is not an option for Trump. That is not an option for Trump because of the fact that all of his entire presidency relies on stock market manipulation and keeping stocks within the realm of his, like, oligarch base, the base of oligarchs that like support him and keep him in power and all of that. If he can't keep them happy and keep the stock market in a way that makes them happy, he's going to lose out. And on top of it, if he can't keep the stock market good for the boomers, he loses a massive chunk of his support. I mean, he's already at 30, so it's not like, you know, it matters that much. But let's pull up really quickly. Well, okay, well, the other option would have been like withdrawing funding from Israel, which is just absurd. And it's like withdrawing funding from Israel is essentially a concession that you're no longer going to be involved in the Middle East. If you want to end wars in the Middle East, you want to actually like be America first and get out of the Middle East. Even if you were like supporting Israel mildly, just keeping them as an ally but not like advancing their war tactics, you would stop supporting Israel. That's what you would do if you wanted to actually you know, peace in the East. You just have to stop supporting Israel because they're a genocidal, maniacal, like greater Israel Zionist expansionist regime. There's no possible way that you can support Israel and pretend to be advocating for peace in the Middle East. It's a misnomer. It can't fucking happen. Maybe I'm using the word misnomer wrong. Misnomer. Let's see. Sure, it's close enough. Okay. What was the statistic I was going to pull up? It was approval ratings of Israel amongst Republicans. Okay. Let's check this out. Okay, yeah, Gallup poll. Which one was it? When is this from? February 27th? That might have been it. Okay, let's switch. Okay. Israel's no longer ahead in America's Middle East sympathies. There we go. Okay. So 41% of Americans now say they sympathize more with the Palestinians in the Middle East situation, while 36% sympathize more with the Israelis. 41 to 76. That's an insane ratio for the US. We have never achieved those numbers. The 5 percentage point difference is not only statistically significant, but it contrasts with a clear lead for the Israelis only a year ago. 46% versus 33%, and a larger lead over the past, the prior 24 years, or I guess past worse as well. Anyways, from 2001 to 2025, Israelis consistently held double-digit leads in Americans' Middle East sympathies, and the gap averaging 43 points between 2001 and 2018. However, public opinion began narrowing in 2019, several years before the October 7th, 2023. October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza. The cumulative effect of gradual changes in the U.S. attitude since then has led to the Israelis no longer being viewed more sympathetically. American sympathies in the Middle East situation. Here's a chart. You get to see the numbers. Bam, Palestinians just crossed the threshold. Okay, independents. This is among independents, which is actually surprising. I mean, the numbers were closer, but it was still Israel for a while. I feel like a lot of independents are kind of actually just the uneducated, like dumbass, like America B class, you know? Unfortunately, like, you know, I wish there were more independents voting for people like Cornel West. Okay, so this is Democrats. Yeah, I mean, Democrats, it's pretty straightforward. I kind of expected this, you know, the little switch up there. Republicans. Okay, so there's one number in particular. Okay, by age. Wait, this says by age. So 18 to 34. So 55 and older, you still have the Israeli class there. And then 18 to 34, this is Americans. Oh wait, is there an age? Damn it. I was hoping that the Republican one had an age thing. What is this, October 7th? No, 1991. I wonder what happened then. I don't know. Favorable views of Israel and Palestine territories. Oh, wait, is this? Oh, no, this is 91. I'm surprised that, yeah. 2002. I'm surprised that, I thought that Israel would have been higher during 9/11, you know, like our allies in the Middle East, but not during, but like shortly after. Anyways, there was one opinion, or not opinion, or maybe it was an opinion poll, I don't know, but it was talking about the Israel, the Republican gap based on age. But here, let's stock or boomer support for Trump. Let's check this out. Oh, what the hell? Oh no. I clicked on an ad. What have I done? Jesus. Okay. President Trump's net approval ratings among millennials and baby boomer generation had dropped to a new second-term low. Previous surveys also found job approval ratings suddenly fallen. Okay, come on. Where's the actual numbers? Okay, 65 and up are baby boomers. Trump's approval rating is 37% versus 61% disapproval rating. What was it? Trump supporter age demographics. Because I isn't the majority of Trump's base like a weird mix of like very young people who are too ignorant to realize what the fuck they're voting for, and very old people who are too ignorant to realize they're destroying the world? Like, non-Hispanic voters, smaller majority Trump supporter in 2024. Get it? Yeah. White voters without college degrees continue to decline. A share of GOP voters 55 and made up a smaller majority. Okay, maybe I'm talking out of my ass here. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. I mean, it's a smaller majority. It looks like it's around like 25 to 30% is like the average. Not average. It's just like the age range there is boomers. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But I do think that Trump is like entirely locked into the stock market as the one thing that keeps his regime floating. I just don't see it as I don't see him sticking around in the media if the stock market crashes. Like, I think that he's going to be universally hated. And I mean, it's important to recognize too that like when this oil price thing hits, right, there's going to be a massive economic slowdown, and it makes me wonder if there is enough reason to believe that AI or the AI bubble will actually like withstand it. I don't, because I mean, right, like all of these things can have like a compounding effect, like people sell their stocks, etc., blah blah blah. I'm wondering if AI is going to take a huge hit during this time period. So let's pull up the AI bubble stock. AI bubble percentage of S&P 500. Okay. Is this the right chart? Let me zoom out. I'm like leaning into my PC here. Oh shit, that is not out. There you go. I want to see the percentage of the S&P 500 that is actually Oh my gosh, there's already a Wikipedia page for the AI bubble. Let's just read this shit. Theorized stock market bubble growing since 2025 amid the AI boom, a period of rapid increase in investment in artificial intelligence. Okay. Da 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 da. All right. Well, either way, I gotta hop off. I got work to go to in about 20 minutes, so now is the time for me to log off. But thank you for watching on YouTube, because I didn't have a single chatter all day. Hell yeah.